Happy International Working Women's Day, everybody. As you can see by the title of the video, I am going to talk today about how feminism and socialism are inextricably tied, and that you cannot confront patriarchal and gender norms without confronting and destroying capitalism, nor can you destroy capitalism without confronting the patriarchy. So, I know that my perspective as a male, and especially as a white male, is an outsider's perspective, but it took a lot of listening, and maybe the people who would have been hostile towards someone who generally experiences oppression directly might listen to someone who is trying to act the best he can as an ally. So, let's dive right in. Or I could just be called a cuck by the rest of the internet. As I just referenced, the Day of Recognition, officially known as International Women's Day, was first known as International Working Women's Day, and was first fought for by the Socialist Party of America in 1909. So, there's been a long history of the liberalization of radical movements, the watering down of social movements to make them seem more palatable, more agreeable, more friendly looking to the public. And certain applications and understandings of gender equality are no exception to that. A lot of people who may have good intentions might say something like they believe in gender equality, but they are not a feminist, or too divisive, or something along those lines. And bizarrely, they might reference that they're okay with the first wave, but they can't feel comfortable with the third wave. Ironic, considering that the wave of feminism that has the most problematic elements are the first and second wave, which generally excluded intersectionality, which is most present in the third and emerging fourth waves of feminism that are emerging in more modern times. So when people have a gripe with modern feminists and say that they don't really want gender equality, who they might be conflating is the first and second wave feminists, mostly second wave feminists, that may have a better name as white feminists, because what white feminists tend to advocate for is a version of gender equality which is not intersectional, not understanding of any other forms of privilege and power, and not understanding any other dynamic besides gender inclusivity that is understood to be many of the criticisms that people might feel uncomfortable with feminism to begin with. So, there are instances of certain forms of feminism that may be exclusionary. The term trans-exclusionary radical feminist, as the name suggests, is someone who does not consider trans women to be women and does not have solidarity with the transgender community. And there's also sex worker exclusionary radical feminist, or SWERF, that doesn't consider sex work in any way consensual and doesn't consider sex to be liberation in any form. The feminist I want to criticize right now is a broad form of what is generally referred to by the left as liberal feminism. The feminist that does not want to change the social order, but wants to be included in it anyway, And I am making the argument that in order to destroy the patriarchy, you have to destroy capitalism. And in order to destroy capitalism, you have to destroy the patriarchy. One cannot go down without the other. If women want to enter themselves into the patriarchy, then the patriarchy still exists. They are liberal feminists. They are not socialist feminists. I am making the argument for socialist feminism. And I will explain, and I'll delve deeper into what I think the patriarchy is supposed to mean, and how it connects to the injustices of capitalism. If capitalism is the economic system which oppresses the working class, then the patriarchy is the culture that breeds the system of capitalism. In a society in which people are told that brute force and brute strength will get them far in life, that being conniving and selfish and not helping out your fellow person and not being compassionate and not valuing bodily or mental autonomy because you gotta get ahead in this world is what the patriarchy might teach us. Whether it's that women should not be assertive, or that women should not lead, or that women need to be submissive to men, women need to listen to the demands of men, women are not as strong as men, and whatever it is that people are told as they grow up, as well as the long-standing belief in parenting that children are essentially their parents' property. It does not really foster a sense of independence and liberation to say that the world that people will grow up in is not going to be a world in which people cooperate with one another, but rather constantly compete with one another. Gendered marketing campaigns make men feel that they should be ashamed of buying a certain kind of hygiene product if it's not marketed for men. And women are told not to participate in certain sports, for example, or to not participate alongside people who are men, or to not enter fields of science because there are subtle implications in the culture that is a more male-oriented field. The sense that women should, or in fact must be nurturing, is a trait that is instilled in people. And also on the flip side, that men should not outwardly show their emotions. But I don't want to get too far into how the patriarchy impacts men. An appropriate analogy would be that if the patriarchy is gunfire, men only suffer the recoil effects. Or that the patriarchy is a gun that shoots a man in the foot and women in the foot, but the man shot off the gun and is mad that his foot is now bleeding, even though he caused it. So anyway, the idea, for example, that men should provide for women on dates or in relationships is a belief that first, women cannot provide for themselves, and that men must be the providers for their relationship or their family, regardless of their presupposed abilities or actual abilities, they will be assumed that if they are not the provider in a relationship, that they are insufficient. And women are socialized differently. Women are made to feel bad for rejecting someone, made to feel bad for asserting an idea that they have with authority in the workplace, and speak differently because they are told not to take charge. They are told to hang back and let men do the talking and let men do the explaining. The term mansplaining is a phenomenon I trust because it actually happens. The assumption in that women do not know something when there is no evidence to assume that they lack any particular knowledge, even if it's a subject that they brought up themselves. So, all this leads back to the fact that a society which values capitalism is going to value a society in which people are dependent on the mercy of an authoritative boss above them in a social hierarchy. In the case of the economic system, that's the capitalist. And in the case of the culture, that's the patriarchy. So, I make the argument that you cannot destroy one without the other. The people who are against identity politics are going to get the left nowhere, because as long as there's still a hierarchy in place, capitalism may find itself to be reanimated or resurrected, even if that's not the intention. The people who are for identity politics but against socialism are getting us nowhere. To destroy socialism, you have to destroy the culture that breeds it. The culture that breeds it is a culture that values brute force and subjugation of people over cooperation and mutual aid. That's the culture. People getting ahead in this world. People striving to be middle class, knowing that there's always going to be a lower class below them. People just trying to get ahead. People trying not to be overly assertive, even if they know exactly what they're talking about. People not being able to be trusted that they can lead themselves. That's the patriarchy. And it breeds things like rape culture, the idea that women need to be limited to the home, the idea that men must be providers at all times, the idea that children are property of their parents to be raised only how the parents see fit, the idea that women cannot be assertive in any area of life. These are subtle messages that are instilled in us from childhood, and marketing perpetuates that, capitalism perpetuates that, fear and pressure to be dominant perpetuates that. Gender roles, an assumption of a social hierarchy in which there is one gender that is a leader and another gender that is a follower, perpetuates that there will be a culture and an economic system which has leaders and followers. if you want to destroy the notion that no gender is confined to a role, then you have to destroy the notion that no worker is confined to subjugation. And if you want to destroy the system that makes no worker confined to subjugation and below a boss, then you have to destroy the social roles that people are indoctrinated into that make that easier to be the case. Brute force cannot be valued over compassion, decency, and understanding, and people playing to their strengths. If one gender has power over another, one class will continue to have power over another. If one class has power over another, then one gender will continue to have that power because there will be nothing in place to stop it. No one will be on an even playing field. If one gender has power over another, then class divides may simply start to reappear. Anti-identity politics leftists, you are getting us nowhere. Anti-socialist feminists, you will not win either. You are not going to destroy the patriarchy without destroying capitalism. So that is why I say feminism is socialism and socialism is feminism. Thanks for watching. I'm Jeremy Einbinder for Democratize the Media. Keep fighting.